and then I unpaused like a fucking moron.
Thanks for the coaching last night. Also, where are the stairs for this map?
That bit didn't actually show up on my alerts. So, Chuck. It's Chuck. Streamlabs fucking up. You're very welcome for the coaching last night. So, his bit donation about where are the stairs for this map. So, yesterday, they were on Lighthouse on Ilios. Yeah, Ilios Lighthouse. And I was trying to get them to focus on like target selection and things like that. And then so I asked the Zenyatta and the soldier to get the high ground, like the high ground that overlooks the courtyard. And it's the one where you have to go up the long staircase, then cross the bridge, then go through the door to get to that high ground. It's actually pretty involved to get there. But the soldier player was that we had put on soldier just for this map to try something out and as like a teaching opportunity is a diva one trick. You know, so this guy has like hundreds of hours on diva and almost nothing on anything else. So we very quickly realized that since he plays diva, he's never actually had to figure out where the stairs are. So it took him, like the point opened, the enemy team capped the point, and then 30% later, the Zenyatta and the soldier finally found the staircase to get to the high ground. It was probably the funniest train wreck I have watched for the longest time. Just this soldier running around in circles trying to get to the high ground looking for the stairs. It was so funny. Holy fuck. So they lost that map. But good lord, it was funny.
Hello. 5.
There it is. Okay, so you're running... What are you running? Okay. That's a yikes. Well, at least you got the 2 DPS. You know, this is the kind of shit that I see in lower elos, and people are like, we need 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 healers. Well, if you've got the wrong fucking healers or the wrong DPS, then shit really isn't gonna matter whether you have 2-2-2 or not. So, Reaper in dive lull, first off. We don't even know if he counters anything or is countered. Like, if they have a soldier, a Hanzo, a Widow, a McCree, a Pharah, anything like that, you're fucked. If they happen to run triple or quad tank into you, you win. Hooray! So Reaper, I'd never like picking Reaper out of the gates because he's a very situational pick. Genji is decent, but he's not like a really high damage character in the fact that he needs... he needs support, which is going to be the Winston, the diva helping him. But he's a really good finisher with his, his dash, his burst combo. But he's not high damage like a Reaper, a Pharah, a Soldier, a Kree, or a Tracer would be. So if the Reaper can't get any effectiveness, the Genji is also going to struggle. And we see the Winston player, but he's a platinum, and then this diva player is a diamond. So are they actually going to work together? Maybe, because this could easily happen where this guy is 2,500 and this guy is 3,499 or something. And then maybe this guy is 3,499. So now this is, of course, an extreme example, but especially when you group, this is a possibility. And the fact that the diva and the Winston both have different ideas, different level of aggression, and there's a very low probability of these two synergizing together. And if they don't really work together, what you're going to have to do is more or less play DPS Moira. So Moira works best when you have grouped tanks. So if the Winston and the diva are diving together, that's awesome. You just heal both of them at the same time, follow them around, whatnot. But we're going to assume that since these two guys are grouped and the Winston is platinum, we assume that the Mercy is more or less going to heal her duo. This is a pretty good and safe guess for solo queue. If a Mercy is duoed with somebody, you can almost always expect that Mercy to pocket their friend instead of trying to be a team player. So what I would do here is see that, our diva is diamond. Reaper's situational pick, and hopefully the Genji will either be playing Assassin or helping us finish. So I would try and stick with Castiel as much as I could. And then if that doesn't work, I would go full-on DPS frag Moira. But, yeah. You know, it's kind of a spoiler since I know all VODs submitted to me are losses, but Jesus Christ, this team composition. And, like, the one big thing that I don't like about this team composition is that we have 2 primary healers, so no utility. We don't have speed boost. We don't have anti. We don't have, you know, Discord. We don't have any utility from our healers. We just have 2 primary healers, and then we have dive tanks. So you have way too much healing. So both of your healers will gain ultimate slower because there's not enough healing to go around for everyone. You've overloaded the amount of healing that your team has. Abandon this VOD, do tank reviews with Toaster? Is Toaster doing VOD reviews right now?
Round 1. Capture the objective.
Let's do this, boys.
Let's go.
Just get off.
Touch from afar.
Oh, Toaster's actually in my fucking chat.
yeah.
I'm blind. Yeah, so the first couple things is that you're really... Yeah. I see him now! Toaster, did you want it? Yeah, exactly. He's hiding because he didn't have his check mark out. Also, his name is... Theme, so I can't fucking see him in chat. No, why network, please? We just had dropped frames. I don't know why we had dropped frames. But yeah, after this VOD, Toaster, did you want to do? Did you want to come on and do a guest coach for a tank VOD? You're more than welcome to. I am going to finish this Moira VOD since we started it, but after this, if you'd like, Toaster, you can hop on Discord and we can take a look at a tank VOD together. Up to you. No pressure. Certainly don't let Twitch chat pressure you into joining me. Hey, chat, pressure him into joining me. Okay. So the big thing about Moira here is that you have a Mercy, so you don't have to fuck around with healing tiny shit like Genji. Just leave that to your Mercy. And you also have your orb here. You didn't use all of the cooldowns available to you. And right-click itself sucks balls against barriers. So, like, it's not like you can headshot with your right-click on Moira, but the right-clicking has 2 side effects. So if we attack a person, yay, he's smiling, but he won't be until Moira sucks him. If you attack a person, you know, you do 50 damage per second, but you also gain 33 health per second, and you also gain resource, healing resource. But if you attack a barrier, you know, like a Reinhardt shield or something, if you attack that, you only get 50 DPS, and it will take you for fucking ever to kill that barrier. Like, I don't know, Winston shield, it'll take you over 10 seconds to actually kill a Winston barrier if you just focus it. So there's literally no point for you to ever damage barriers. Don't even bother. Like, you know, sure, if you have literally nothing else to do, but if you have nothing else to do, I'd probably just be getting in a better position rather than trying to shoot a barrier. So first step, don't shoot barriers as Moira. It's not worth it. Second, focus on healing and then your orb. If you're falling behind on healing orb, but especially early on, you want to be chucking a damage orb to start chipping down the enemy. So damage orb as much as possible, unless you're either falling behind on heals or you're running low on heals and don't have coalescence yet or don't want to pop it. And then healing orb can be pretty strong if you get jumped by like a flanker or something, but you need to actually use your cooldowns and then leave the tiny shit like this guy. Is that, who the fuck is that? Oh, that's Mercy. You know, leave the Reaper and the Genji to healing of the Mercy because she can't fucking miss her healing, and then you just ensure that your tanks survive. So that's the big thing there. Sounds like fun. Awesome.
We got, yes, yeah, we got white. Regroup.
Dink, 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 dink! The triple dink.
You gotta dive the...
You got Hanzo'd.
Challenge our assumptions.
Moira is definitely a main healer, yes. No, Moira's a main healer. Her healing's insane.
Get
100% a main healer.
As well.
Allow me to repair the damage.
All there.
Injured again.
Nice damage
They
orb.
don't have the focus. Have
Your fade is a life-saving ability, right? Your fade is what you are used for movement as well as escape. Like if you get attacked by a Winston, a Tracer here, and you've used your fade uselessly like that, you're gonna die. You have to be, fade is very similar to how soldiers use their healing station. In that shitty soldiers, when they get down to like 180 HP, so they ate like one pellet from something from across the map, and they're in no risk of dying at all. They're like, I'm at 180 health. I better get to 200 or else I might die. So they pop healing station to charge up like 20 points of health. But healing station is their primary way of actually surviving in an engagement or if they get attacked, because the healing station does like 40 HP. In the same way that Fade is not an ability you want to use lightly, or else you're going to fucking die. I was in a game against Sinatra on Route 66, and usually on Moira, when I respawn, I fade immediately to try and catch up to my team and regroup faster. And I got punished 2 or 3 times for that because Sinatra basically one-clipped me as soon as I left the spawn, and I didn't have my fade to save myself. So yeah, you're not playing against Sinatra, but still, you can't be wasting life-saving abilities like this. Would you give the damage order device if the Mercy was playing an off healer? Yes, that doesn't change. Just the fact that you're running Mercy probably means that you want to even more heavily rely on damage orb. Sure, Toaster. I will certainly do that.
Genji right side. Behind on me. Genji on me. I need healing.
So, this either indicates a really slow sensitivity or just inexperience with turning around.
Genji right side.
Okay. So watch him turn around here in quarter speed. He turns, he lifts up his mouse, he turns the rest of the direction. So that pause halfway through the 180 is usually indicates that you're using too low of a sensitivity. So you want to be doing at least a 180, and it's possible that you were already on like the right edge of your mouse pad, because it almost looks like you lifted it one other early. So you kind of like go there, you lift, you go there, you pause, and then the cursor stays perfectly still, so I assume that's a mouse pad lift. So I think your sensitivity is too low, and if it's not too low, then you just need to practice 180s way more. So your focus on the Genji and the Mercy causes basically both of your tanks to die because you weren't staying with your Winston and your Diva.
Yeah, you and I have to focus the hand. I'm gonna call out when I'm jumping on hand. So
You just you can't heal the enemies, are you? It's not gonna work. Two questions in chat. Yes, Mercy can heal around corners for a few seconds. Yes. Yeah, Tracers can hear the fade and will pursue you. Absolutely. If I was playing Tracer and I heard that noise, I'd pressure the fuck out of that Moira, especially if she also used her orb. Was on 5 times 800 DPI in that VOD. Since notched it up a little and gotten a bigger mouse pad. Okay. Can you 180 comfortably now, Fizz? Drop frames.
We must all make sacrifices.
Come on, guys. We have a full dive comp here. You just gotta flank.
Don't you still have a Reaper? You don't have a full dive comp.
You can kill them.
going left side.
I have Val.
That could be really bad.
I'm dead, dude. Guys, come on.
Okay, so number one, don't be this guy. Don't be this guy. There. Oh my goodness, classic Diamond. Don't be this guy. The guy, and not the person we're reviewing. That asshole in voice chat. Guys, come on. The enemy team literally used both of their DPS ultimates. It would be a fucking miracle for you to win the team fight. Don't be like, don't be that guy. When they used ultimates to kill you. They engaged on you. They engaged on you with ultimates. And predictably, they fucked you. Okay? I've seen this so many times in both ranked and scrims where people will pick a composition that they want to run. They will go in. They will, on Koth, they will fight, and they will lose that team fight. And then they'll go back, and they'll be like, well, obviously that didn't work. Let's make some changes to our composition. So they change up their comp, and then they go back in. And then they get fucked by ultimates, okay? Because they switched off, so their ultimate status reset, but the enemy won the fight, so they had an ultimate. So you're like, well, that composition didn't work. Let's try this instead. So they switch off, they lose all their ultimate status, and they try something else. Any team fight that you lost because of the use of ultimates is not anyone's fault. Ultimates are powerful. It's not the fault of the composition. It's not the fault of the heroes that you're playing, and it's not the fault of the people playing the heroes. It's the fact that they fucking pressed Q in your general direction. You died. So don't be too quick to assume that the composition you are running will not work, especially if they killed you with ultimates themselves. The only time that I really recommend a composition swap is if our team uses ultimates and the enemy team still beats us. That is a good indication that you need to change things up. If you use ultimates offensively on the enemy team and you lose the team fight, you either suck balls or it's time to switch the comp up. Okay. Moira is... I thought the consensus was that Moira is okay at everything, but not great at any one thing. No, Moira is really good at AoE heals, like piercing heals. Decent anti-flanker, really high pressure, good finishing ability. Yeah. Switching in Koth is a huge gamble because you're immediately losing the old battle. Yes, that is correct.
For anything.
Oh well.
We just have to go group up.
I like that you held tab during that entire kill cam just to spite us so that we couldn't see the Genji kill you.
Up and go.
I must
Go right, go right.
You have to go now. Someone get on the fucking point.
I'm on the way.
Hey, you have a Pharah now.
Just charge the point. I'm gonna Velcast it.
Going in, going in.
Watch out for grab. Watch out for grab. Please mercy.
Nice.
Nice. Pressing you, Farah. Watch out. Hands to
Good orb usage so far. Good orb usage.
the left. Hands to right side.
Hands are down.
As Moira, unless you have a team with you, it's almost never worth it to damage Zarya bubbles, because Zarya's bubble will go away naturally before you actually break it with your right-click damage. So if the Zarya bubble is on somebody, unless you see a teammate pounding into that bubble, don't shoot it yourself. You won't break it before it goes away on its own.
I'm trying to rush Farah. I'm gonna die. Never mind.
Good orb usage. This is a lot better. Good orb usage.
I survived. Now we good.
You know, using those healing orbs there in order to just get some extra healing. You know, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Guys.
And between the regroups, I would be going and looking for angles in which you can actually spam discords on, or so not discords, the damage orbs onto the opponents. You want to be looking for creative angles and whatnot where you can throw damage orbs constantly and start getting ult charge. So
Just don't
throw a damage orb at them. You know, like you need to throw a damage orb at them right now.
peek them, so my rest.
I'm coming in with my shield. On the way.
50 on my belt.
This for the right side.
Right side, right side.
So again, using your fade, and you like look how far your fade took away you from the rest of your team. Like, yes, Dragon's a split team, but you don't have to make that the actual reality. So you've got 2 people critical, and now you're separated from a Dragon. So you waste. You know, I would say you use, but it's an absolute waste. You waste fade constantly. It's great to reposition. So, for example, if you're standing here and you're attacking someone here, what you can do is you can throw a healing orb through them and then fade to the other side of them to kind of like catch the orb as it passes through you to keep fighting. So this is a really good use of fade. But you just use fade, like you retreated here and now you're completely useless while your team is more or less dying. So try and avoid, I suppose, using fade this much, but...
I'm low here.
They're pushing.
We lost
You
fire.
left side. I'm sorry.
Everyone is on me in the back. I need some protection.
It's funny because she was in the middle of your team, and then she got scattered at the end of it all. So, yeah. One of the things that I like to do with Coalescence is if you're in no immediate danger of dying, I like to use the damage orb at the same time that I Coalescence. So your last orb was a healing orb. So if possible, like your Ryan is in no threat of dying, you have Fade, you're in no threat of dying. What I would try and do... Also, what the fuck is this McCree? What is this hitbox? Look at this. He looks like this. He's got his torso and then he's like, arm. Arm. And then he's like, legs. What a fucking weird McCree hitbox. So yeah, you're activating Coalescence here. But I usually try and drop a heal or a damage orb in somebody's general direction right before I pop Coalescence. Because Coalescence only does 70 DPS, which is only, like, your normal right click does 50. And then Coalescence does 70. So if you're actually wanting to kill people, which you're going to need to do if you want to win this fight, you need a little bit more oomph. So if I had my damage orb, I'd launch my damage orb at the Kree and then Coalescence him just to get the initial kill a lot faster and then go mop up everyone else. Coalescence is really good to kind of kill people who have no sustain or tank. You know, it's bad against armor, but really good against targets like Genji and McCree here. Yeah, that's not roll. That's his jump animation. It's just weird.
Mercy, right, left side. Right side.
Come on, guys. Can someone pick me up?
Green and point.
So, if at all possible, try and get your ally in the beam at the same time you're attacking. Now, your D.Va and your Reinhardt weren't together, so there wasn't a great opportunity for it, but you got pretty much piddly value out of that. You know, you were no risk. You could have just used a fade and a right click to get the Genji to fuck off instead of Coalescence, but yeah, that, you know, didn't really get you much value.
Keep fighting, keep fighting. I'm almost there.
Three
Nice.
down.
Shot, Genji.
He's low. Got him.
See how valuable fade is? Super value. Just fade away, just right click him in the face, he's dead. He didn't get his dash reset either because you just faded off him.
Nice.
Get
Kinda
mercy, mercy.
He kind of fucked that one up.
Mercy.
I have shot ready.
Hands on right side, hands on right side.
I do like the fact that you're pulsing the healing instead of just, you know, spray healing, because Moira, after you stop healing somebody, has like a lingering health over time for a certain amount of time. It's like 16 HPS over 3 seconds or something like that. So pulsing healing is a lot more efficient if they're not actively taking damage.
Barrier going low. I need to short my barrier.
Dragon through the point, careful.
Hands are dead.
Nice.
Nice, nice, nice.
Go back for healing.
There's quite a few times in which you actually heal from outside your healing range. Your healing range is only 10 meters, and then your damage range is 21 meters. Oh, I'm sorry. So you need to, like, you're just kind of like pissing into the wind, you know? I see, said the blind man as he pissed into the wind. It's all coming back to me now. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if training range would help you here, but there's a lot of times where you're healing from basically 1 meter too far away, and it's not giving you any healing at all. So there is a small audio feedback as well as a visual feedback on the targets you heal. So try and pay attention to that, and you really have to be surprisingly close to targets to heal them. So there's been quite a few times this match already where you've been like within a meter or two of being able to heal, but your heals actually haven't applied. Yes, also, yes, you're correct. The movement against Hanzo is incorrect, but I wasn't going to mention it.
I have my Valk in 9, 8 now. You just try to keep me alive.
They got a tracer.
You definitely do not jump against Scatter Arrow. You will get just fucked repeatedly.
Yeah, she's on the right side. She's on the point. See if we can get her. They have a Pharaoh. Come here, Reaper.
So the waste of an orb there, right? The Mercy had that Reaper, and your orb is also, after it's done healing the Reaper, it would be heading off to Narnia, when you've got all of these nice walls on the inside that you could bounce those orbs off repeatedly. So, you know, if we're looking at the high ground perspective here, if we have, you know, the point itself, the Reaper was here, and you were here, and you chucked the orb in this direction, where if the tanks are here, you had two options. You know, you could have taken a couple steps to the right, and you could bounce the orb back and forth between these walls. You could bounce the orb back and forth between these walls. But trying to have your orb kind of ricochet in an area is way more powerful than just launching it at somebody who's going to get healed up anyway, and have that orb just go off into fucking Narnia. So just try and be conscientious of any walls that you have, in order to have your orbs bounce around. It takes a little bit of awareness, but after you kind of get used to consciously thinking about where you're throwing your orbs, you get used to it pretty quickly.
Yeah, they have Pharaoh instead of Hanzo.
Don't
go to point.
Don't forget to use ults
No
there.
point.
Yeah, your 180s are way too slow. Way too slow.
Yeah, I'm Valkyrie, there's some Valkyrie.
Need healing.
Don't forget to...
Oh, that is unfortunate. This Pharah just went fucking ham. That's pretty impressive for a plat Pharah. Also, you comboed a healing orb with Coalescence, and you already had Valkyrie up. So I probably wouldn't have used Coalescence here unless it had saved the Reinhardt before he died. But since Valkyrie was popped and we got the two res, we got this guy resed and this guy resed. So we brought two up, right? And then Mercy's in Valkyrie, which is always in a lot of healing. So I don't think you needed Coalescence at all, or at least you could have held till afterwards. But you definitely didn't need Healing Orb. You should have used Damage Orb to actually get some chip damage onto the team before moving into the other group and just kind of keeping the pressure up on them.
Use ultis. Watch out, McCree ult. I'm dead. McCree ult to me from the left side.
Pharaoh on me, right side. Trace from me as well.
When faced with a setback, we must challenge our assumptions. Overtime.
Oh, nice Reaper. Moira,
Can someone
you get
contest?
to the point? Moira, can you get to the point?
Try and damn it. Tries to go the other way.
I don't think it would have made a difference, but you could have dropped an orb there. You could have dropped a Healing Orb. So, yeah. Glad to see Builder included under team roles in the Feeder Cup. Yeah. Excuse me. Okay, so your Coalescence, I think the Coalescence, other than the 180s, like very quick and accurate 180s, the major problem with your Moira is the timing of the Coalescence, and you're using it quite reactively, and when shit is already going wrong. I would definitely move into a more offensive style of using Coalescence, because if, again, going to our blackboard, if this is the point here, You know, and then the enemy team has a chance to move all the way up from main and then fight on the point. From here to attack people, you have to like point your beam in this direction, point your beam in this direction, you know, point it behind you, stand over here and point your beam in this direction. You got to like, you know, whip your beam around like it's some sort of like pool noodle or something like that. Whereas alternatively, if this is the point and the enemy team is pushing in together, if you coalescence from here and then beam in this direction, you'll get more or less all of them, especially if your team pushes up to meet them. So try and, if you are going to be using coalescence, you can use it before, you know, you need a support ultimate or whatnot. And this is a failing of a lot of low elo supports, is that they'll have 6 people alive, 6, and then, you know, one will die, another will die, and then another will die, and then they're like, oh, well, if we're going to win this team fight, we're going to need to, you know, use my support ultimate so that these 3 people can kill the 6 people who are still alive on the enemy team. You get more value out of your support ult, and it's more, it's just more valuable to have your ultimate used to win fights instead of kind of like extend or delay the inevitable lost fight. So, you know, this applies to Lucio and Zen as well. Just be a little bit more preemptive with your ults. You know, if the enemy has a Zarya ult, for example, don't preemptively trance. But if they don't have anything that you need to hard counter with your ultimate, use it earlier in the team fights and let your team know that you're going to use it so that they can actually take advantage of it.
Fuck. Close game.
Is it good to use Moira Ult if you get a pick to get the push going hard? Yeah, you can definitely use that. If you don't think the pick is enough, you can definitely use the Moira Ult to steamroll it.
Challenge our assumptions.
Okay, we got this one.
Oh, that's nice of him.
Sit down, Pharaoh.
How kind of him to offer somebody else to
very
DPS.
But like a Lucia or something like that.
Props to him.
Can't win without it. Not when they have a mercy.
Can you go tank? I can go DPS.
5, 4, 3, 2,
Sure.
1. Round 2. Capture the objective.
I like the restraint on
Come
not
focus
fading
now.
after you left
Don't
spawn.
get sniped by hand, so
Let's go right side.
we went left.
Never mind.
Can we decide? Okay.
Kree left side.
Genji as well.
Yeah. So you definitely should have launched a damage orb already, right? You should have found an angle somewhere. Even if like, your damage orb gets you 7 to 8% every time you use it, it's hugely beneficial. You know, if they have an Ana, for example, and you chuck a damage orb into the center of them and it hits 6 people, that Ana needs to require 6 different shots to heal everybody up. The amount of pressure that just chucking a damage orb into the enemy team off cooldown does is insane. It's insane amount of value and pressure. I wouldn't do it if you already have Coalescence, because it also feeds enemy support ultimates, but it chips them down, it puts pressure on them, it increases the chance of them getting just randomly one shot. You definitely need to do spamming your damage orb off cooldown way more, way more.
We might need a shield tank like we Risa. They have hands, so again.
Also,
to dive.
the first thing to do when a Genji does that is to just damage orb the Genji, and not right at him because he can reflect it.
Nice, McCree
But
down.
Send down.
if the Genji jumps in, immediately damage orb, because even if he reflects, the suck power thing will continue to damage him, even if as long as he doesn't reflect the orb itself, it will still latch on to him. So you have 2 abilities that are not countered by reflect. So you need to be a lot more aggressive with your orbs, trying to be launching them pretty much off cooldown. They're self-defense tools, but as long as you still have your fade up, by the time you get into engagement, if you're forced to use your fade, even worst case scenario, you probably already have your orb up at that point in the fight. So be using your orbs off cooldown to apply pressure and get coalescence as fast as possible.
Nice. Watch out, hands though. Left.
He's down.
Nice. Can you get mercy? Nice.
Nice.
Back,
Nice.
back. 50 on my back.
My ultimate.
Should you still be spamming damage orb if the other team has a diva? Yes, because you're wasting their defense matrix, right? Also, as somebody who plays a significant amount of diva, a Moira orb is actually a pain in the ass to eat properly. For some reason, you need to keep defense matrix on that orb for almost a full second before it will register as being eaten. And I don't know why, but Moira orbs don't get eaten immediately by diva, so it's a great just a waste of the actual. You won't get any ult charge, but now diva and their team has less protection overall, so they'll take more damage from other sources. It's a great use, yes.
Ability is charging.
Just like that. Look at that ult charge tick up. Look at that ult charge tick up. Sexy. If only
Jenny, right side.
another damage orb. Look at you. Push
Green
up.
one.
If you have coalescence, scream at your team to push up.
In the back, in the back. Help me, help me, help me. Road 9.
The low, Jenny low.
Well, that's just unfortunate. So yeah, you're basically unkillable outside of stuns. So stuns will knock you out of coalescence, like hooks, flashes. But if you use a coalescence, you get 50 health per second local, right? You heal yourself for 50 health per second anytime you pop coalescence. So as long as you avoid Roadhog hooks and, stuns and Doomfist punches and shit like that, outside of being discorded and bursted down, you move fast, your hitbox is fucking weird, your beam is just horrendous in terms of the visual effects it puts out. It blinds people. It's good to use offensively here, but there you popped coalescence, and then you kind of like backed off and retreated and kind of like fiddle fucked around on the ass end of the point. And then your team just kind of sat with it. So coalescence is, again, really good when you have a lot of people working together and pushing in the same direction. And the fact that you were dealing with a flank hog, your diva was kind of alone, but I think your diva expected you to stay with her with coalescence, so she kind of went off and did something, fed, broke mech, and then you got triple high nooned, which all sucks. It all sucks. But yeah, so try and have a plan for coalescence, or if you do pop a coalescence, just start talking about what you want your team to do. Go forward, do this, collapse on the hog. If your team had made any decisive action, all of you collapse on the hog, or all of you move forward so that the flanking hog is like, where'd everybody go? Then you would have actually gotten value. But you kind of just popped coalescence, and then you specifically retreated when you didn't have to. You should have pushed the advantage, pushed with the aggression, and then your team just kind of got triple killed, which sucks. But yeah, you're definitely using your coalescence. I wouldn't say wrong, but because I can see the thought process that goes into using the coalescence, but you're definitely getting little to no value out of almost every single coalescence you use, which you certainly need to work on improving on. I didn't miss much, Diva. Just talking about Moira and the use of coalescence.
My ultimate is charging.
Come on, guys. Soldier left.
Damage orb, damage.
I'm resting. Protect me.
So these chokes are great. You know where the opponents are, and you need to just chuck damage orbs into those. Just constantly. It will pressure them. It'll force them to back off. They don't have enough sustain. It gets you ult charge. There's no downside to just chucking your damage orbs constantly through these tiny fuck off doors. And you're also wasting a lot of piss. When you have a Mercy, also you were pissing on things that weren't the diva, who was taking a shit ton of damage, and she ended up getting demeched. So just a poor management of your healing resources, and you're not using your damage orbs in order to actually get your ultimate as fast as possible.
Get it right. Careful here. I can Velcros out. If you wanna go, I'm dead. I'm stuck. I'm stuck.
Door stuck! Door stuck! Door stuck! Damage orb.
We have no mercy.
Or healing orb.
Genny.
Doc!
Mercy left side.
Try to get mercy.
Solo ulted. Pick up.
Hide. Wait.
Damage orb. Damage orb.
Wait, help.
Damage orb!
Okay, let's go.
I'm Valking. Go.
Mercy half.
I'm dead.
Your,
Mercy one.
Your mercy is literally suicidal if any.
Mercy still do one.
Like guys, I can't play mercy.
You also need to speed up the rate at which you actually use your orb. You select the orb slowly, and then you sit in the phase where you sit with both orbs. I can't remember, so we are going to jump into a game. But there's a certain way you can actually launch orbs faster. So Jayne, you should basically immediately be using orb when it comes off cooldown? Yes. Absolutely yes. And I have to remember how it works. I don't usually use it, but you can, so I'm going to show it to you. I'm lazy.
Understood. I understand.
Why can't I move? Yeah, so if you're like right-clicking somebody, so I just wanted to confirm it works the way it does. But if you're right-clicking somebody and you tap E, the damage orb will fire immediately. You don't have to like unclick right-click. So right-click, right-click, right-click. If I just tap E, the orb immediately launches. You don't have to stop right-clicking to press E to right-click again. You can just launch an orb. And I believe it works the same way for left-click. Yeah, it works the same way for left-click. So you don't actually have to release a mouse button. You can activate your orb. So if you're, if you're damaging and you want extra damage, you can just E and it'll launch immediately. You never have to stop right-clicking at any point in time. Same with the actual left-clicks. So if we're healing a bot, left-clicking, 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 I tap E, I didn't release left-click at any point in time, and the orb launches immediately. So it's not really an animation cancel, but you can treat it as so. Right-click, 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 tap, and it fires immediately. There's no selection. So when I see Moira's walking around with E up like this, like this, if I see you doing this on Moira, you're doing it wrong. You should know what orb you launch, and if you're healing somebody, the only really time that this wouldn't apply is if you're fighting somebody. So, if let's find a bot where I can practice this on. Okay, so if I'm fighting this bot here, let's do it once he comes back. So if I'm fighting this bot here and I've taken damage, what I'll do is launch healing orb and then fade back into it. So it would go slower if I was actually damaged. But you would want to launch your healing orb if you're fighting somebody. Let me try and actually go take damage so I can see if I can get this to work. Shoot me, shoot me. Wow, that takes piddly-ass damage. Can hit headshot. It's going to heal too fast for this to be a worthy demonstration. But basically when the bot comes, if you're fighting somebody, you heal, and then you fade so that you catch the orb on the other side. So, at that point in time, that sort of engagement is when you right-click, but you launch a healing orb. So if you want to, practice Moira, right-click, try and, do alternating orbs. So there I was damaging, and then I launched a heal orb. So try and make it as fluid and as fast as possible. So right-click, heal orb, right-click. So that's the sort of thing you could do. And you could practice it the other way, too. Just left-click and then practice launching a damage orb. So left-click, damage orb, left-click. So just get used to that. And then I'm actually not sure if you can animation cancel orb with coalescence. Let's find out. So it'll be... You can. Okay. So you can animation cancel orb with coalescence. Neat. I didn't know that before. I assumed you could, but I never actually tested it. So, anyway, that's Moira. You know, I've played the game and I've played enough heroes. I just kind of instinctually know where. Oh, excuse me. I kind of just instinctually know where animation cancels exist. I just have to verify them, and then I have to figure out like the extent to which they exist. But yeah, I'm honestly just lazy. I normally don't study them. Oh, that was the wrong thing to open. So hopefully you guys find that information a little bit more valuable on how to use Moira. Kabaji hates when Moira uses Healing Orb, but at lower elo, it's the damage orb that annoys me as Tracer. Kabaji hates when Moira uses Healing Orb? Yes, on herself in the 1v1. Yes. So, but other than that, you know, Kabaji's probably hating it from the perspective of trying to attack a Moira that uses a Healing Orb to save herself. I can understand that. But, yeah. That's pretty amazing. Blinky said you should never just throw damage orbs randomly. All it does is charge enemy ults and have it on cooldown when you need it. If you already have Coalescence, maybe. I certainly don't agree with that style of play at all. I don't know. Let me... I'm going to be an asshole. I don't... You've caught me in that really awkward situation where I don't want to countermand to somebody that I respect. Also, I've also heard only Healing Orb. What a fuck... The other thing that I fucking hate is when I see on Reddit, it's like, hey, Moira, stop doing damage. Your job is a healer. It's like, dude, I'm a fucking hybrid. I'm going to be doing both. Okay, so first, I'd like you to note that your skill rating has been lowered. So this is Decay, first off. This is Decay. And then Moira, 2 hours on Moira. 91% win rate on Moira at 4250 after 2 hours. 2 hours of Moira, fucking almost top 500. 91% win rate. 4.29 eliminations per life. Healing per 10. Almost 11,000 healing per 10. So I've got 4.3 elims per death. And almost 11,000 healing per 10. So, like, I'm not going to swing my dick around and say I know what I'm talking about, but more... No, you should definitely be using Damage Orb. Unless you have Coalescence, then don't feed their support ultimates. But really, truly, you get your ultimates so fucking fast. I once had a game on Eichenwald where I had 29 Coalescence eliminations. It was insane. What gets you more ult charge, the healing or the Damage Orb? The Damage Orb. Yeah, we're almost done this VOD, and then we're jumping into a tank one.
No
as soon as I lose this map.
Like, it's impossible.
Diva, when Mercy is getting dived, you have to dive them.
I must reflect upon this.
Diva, you need to dive way more. Like,
I have barrage ready.
come on, guys, we can do this. Please focus their Mercy.
Okay, get a good grab. Let's go.
Oh, that's so unfortunate! You get fucking wrecked!
Finish him!
I'm sorry, guys. We have to go. Mercy down.
Like, start fucking listening to voice notes. Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's funny.
Like,
That's too bad. Okay, let's get. There's nothing really left in the VOD to review there. So we'll get Toaster in here. But, yeah, so really, I always thought it was Healing Orb that would give you more ult charge because it does 300 healing while damage does 200. In theory, yes, but right, healing you normally kind of like hold a position, So the orb will do like 20 healing, and then it will fuck off into Narnia and do literally nothing for the rest of its life. Whereas if you chuck... And the healing orb also does damage, or sorry, heals dependent on your team actually having taken damage. So there's a lot of times where you can't actually use healing orb because nobody on your team has taken damage. So yes, on paper, healing orb would give you more ult charge, but in practicality, your damage orb is always going to be more valuable. Always going to be more valuable. No Orisa VODs. That's sad. You can always do damage, you can't always do healing. That's a really great way to summarize it. Okay. Let's, I'm just going to do a brief report card because I don't want to keep Toaster waiting for any longer than we have to. Work on your orb usage and work on your coalescence usage. Your coalescence usage requires some sort of coordination because you need to pierce it through multiple allies and enemies at the same time. So trying to use it more preemptively when they're pushing in or when you're pushing in to gain an advantage instead of trying to use it to correct a disadvantage. And then, you know, we've talked about the orb usage, but damage orb, damage orb, damage orb until you get coalescence. Then coalescence is one of the fastest fucking ult charges in the game. So pretty much use it off cooldown. High level Moiras, it's coalescence is basically like a really long cooldown. In that, you know, people always ask me, Jayne, what do you do on Moira when you run out of healing resource? Okay. When you run out of healing resource, the answer is pop coalescence. Because if you ran out of healing resource and that process of running out of healing did not get you enough ult charge to get a coalescence, you're playing Moira wrong. Okay? So if you ever find yourself out of Moira healing and you don't have coalescence up, you either were very inefficient with your orb usage or you were inefficient with your healing, and you need to correct one of the two. It is very, very, very rare for me to run out of healing and not have coalescence online when I play Moira. Very rare. Anyway,